Mr. Olsen, I remember when you used to come brief Congress as the director of the NCTC, and I always found you to be a sober, reasonable national security professional. Like I say, when Joe Biden nominated you to this position, I thought that was one of his better choices. But then I started looking at what you've been up to for the last 4 years, and now I have questions about which Matt Olsen we're getting. 2017, you wrote an op-ed entitled, "The Electoral College is a National Security Threat." I want to repeat that. The Electoral College is a national security threat. Do you still believe that the Electoral College is a national security threat?
Well, Senator, let me begin by thanking you for your initial comments about my time as the National Counterterrorism Center Director. And I spent my better part of my career as a government public servant protecting the country. I left the government in 2014 and entered as the private sector. I wanted to remain engaged on the issues that I thought were important. And as a private citizen, of course, I expressed some views, including that article you're referring to, in a way that I wouldn't and haven't expressed as a public or government servant. That view, yes, there are aspects in context, if I may explain, there are aspects of the way in which the Electoral College allowed or could allow nefarious cyber actors to pinpoint their efforts to influence an election. There are ways in which the Electoral College makes us more vulnerable to nefarious, particularly nation-state cyber actors to influence elections. And that was what I was seeking to highlight.
I'm sorry,
no, of course.
Our time is very limited here. So you still think the Electoral College is a national security threat?
I stand by the content of the article that I wrote,
okay.
Yes.
Should the Department of Justice ever bring a lawsuit to try to force states to, say, adopt the National Popular Voter Compact?
Senator, I'm not familiar with any statutory provisions or proposals along those lines.
Last year, in the middle of riots that caused billions of dollars of damage and had murders spiking at rates not seen in a generation, you described the situation as mostly peaceful protests. Do you think the rioting we saw last year was mostly peaceful protests?
I think that I'm not sure exactly the comments you're referring to, but I.
You signed a public letter last June saying that.
Yeah, I will say this, Senator. If I'm confirmed and have the opportunity to lead the National Security Division, the threat that we face from the types of violence that we've seen from the past several years, particularly any type of domestic terrorism, I would be responsible for enforcing our laws and enforcing those laws regardless of ideology and enforcing them fairly and impartially. And that would be my pledge.
You once wrote that ISIS supports Donald Trump. You think that ISIS supported Donald Trump?
I appreciate, again, Senator, the article you're referring to. Again, as a private citizen, I tried to stay engaged on the national security issues that I had worked on. And I will answer your question directly. The article I wrote was based on statements that I had seen that I was very concerned about from a propaganda standpoint. In 2016, when I wrote that article, ISIS had risen and was using its propaganda machine to influence people in the United States, and they were using the language, the words of then candidate Donald Trump to advance their propaganda machine. And so I was referring to their exact words in making that statement. And I stand by the article. I was concerned about the ways in which ISIS was using those comments to recruit and mobilize people in the United States.
If it's true that ISIS supported Donald Trump, do you think Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi thinks he made a bad bet?
I'm very supportive of the nature in which we prosecuted and the way the Trump administration took the fight to ISIS over the past several years.
Okay. So, Mr. Olsen, I'll just say again, I had a lot of respect for the Matt Olsen we saw as the NCTC director, but I feel like something has changed here. Just in the last 4 years, to review what we've covered today, you've said ISIS supports Donald Trump. You referred to rioting last summer as mostly peaceful protests. You've said the Electoral College is a national security threat. It's one thing to leave government, comment on public affairs, to even be partisan, to give money to candidates of your choice and to campaign for them. But I feel like something about Donald Trump's presidency in the last 4 years sent you a little bit around the bend. So it makes me wonder which Matt Olsen we're going to be getting at the Department of Justice. My time's expired.
Thank you.